So it feels like we just got our heads around REST APIs,
Yeah.
And boom, suddenly everyone's buzzing about this model context protocol, this MCP. Like,
Yeah.
it's the next big thing, the must know for building APIs.
It's moving fast, that's for sure. Like 1 minute, we're all comfortable with the usual API stuff.
Right.
And then wham, MCPs everywhere. Everyone's saying you're not going to make it if you don't know this.
Intense, right? Like a little scary even.
Definitely caught people's attention, yeah. And there's some really good reasons for all the hype, too.
And that's exactly what we're going to do in this deep dive, right? We're going to break down this whole MCP thing.
Okay, yeah.
We'll cut through the jargon, figure out what it actually is.
Yeah.
And why it's got everyone so worked up. It's like your crash course in MCP. You might have seen it mentioned with these OpenAI agents SDK, those developer tools. And there are some pretty wild predictions about what it could do.
Oh, yeah, that OpenAI integration. That's a big deal. That kind of shows you how important this is becoming. And those predictions, well, they definitely get you thinking. Makes you want to dig a little deeper and see what's behind it all.
For sure. So at its core, MCP is supposed to be this new standard, right, for how we build APIs.
Okay.
Someone described it as a USB-C port for AI, and that just clicked for me.
I like that. Yeah, that's really good. It's all about having that one connector that works everywhere, just like USB-C.
Right, exactly. And it was developed by Anthropic, the folks behind Claude.
Oh, okay.
They wanted to make sure large language models, these LLMs, had a standard way to get the information they need.
Oh, that makes sense.
And speaking of Anthropic, their CEO, well, he came out and said that by the end of the year, almost all code will be written by AI. Like,
Whoa.
wow.
That's a bold statement. I mean, it really shows how much they believe in AI.
Yeah.
And it also shows the role they think MCP will play in that future. Whether or not it happens that fast, who knows? But it's a big change in how they see things.
So that's where we are. Our goal here is pretty simple. We want you to understand what MCP is, how it works, and why it matters.
All right.
Especially if you're into the future of AI and software development. And we're going to try to do all of this without getting too technical, keeping it clear for everyone.
Sounds good. Maybe a good place to start would be to break down what makes up MCP, like the different parts.
Yeah. Okay. So with MCP, you've got three main pieces. The host, the client, and the server.
Okay.
So the host is like the main app, the thing you, the user, are using. It could be something like the Claude desktop app.
Right.
Or it could be a code assistant in your IDE, like Cursor or Windsurf. And here's the thing. One host can actually manage multiple clients.
Oh, that's interesting. So the host is like the main application managing everything, and the clients are kind of like specific connections within it.
Exactly. And the client, it's actual part of the host. And its job is to handle the connection to the MCP servers.
So the host is like the manager, and the client's the one actually talking to the servers.
Yep, spot on. Now, the servers are where the magic happens. That's what connects to all your data. Databases, like the regular ones, PostgreSQL, and the newer NoSQL types, any kind of API you can think of, local files, even your code.
So like everything's on the table.
Pretty much. And just like one host can have many clients, a single host and its clients can talk to lots of different MCP servers at the same time.
That's pretty powerful. So it's not limited to just one type of data or anything. It can get info from all sorts of places.
Exactly. That's what makes it so flexible. Each server is like a gateway to specific data or actions.
Makes sense.
And the thing that holds it all together, the host, the clients, the servers, is the MCP protocol itself, like the language they all speak. It's the set of rules that allows them to communicate effectively.
Like a universal translator for AI. That's clever.
Right. So without that shared language, things would get messy fast. Okay, now we've covered the basics. Let's talk about how MCP actually gets things done. And that's where resources and tools come in.
Okay, yeah, I've heard those terms thrown around. What exactly are they?
So a resource is basically information that the language model can use. It's like a read-only view of your data. It could be a file or the result of a database query, like asking, show me all customers in California.
Okay, so it gives the LLM context, like background info to work with.
Exactly. Now, a tool is different. It's an action that the model can trigger, like writing data to a database, uploading a file, that sort of thing. If you're familiar with REST APIs, a resource is like a GET request, getting information, and a tool is like a POST-I request. actually changing something.
I get it. So resources are for understanding and tools are for doing.
Perfect. And remember that horse tender app we talked about? Imagine users upload photos of their horses and those are stored somewhere. That's a resource the AI can use to, say, identify the horses in the pictures.
Okay, yeah.
Then there are horse profiles in a database, also a resource. And let's say the app has an API that matches horses based on, I don't know, personality or something. With MCP, that API becomes a tool. The AI can use that tool to suggest matches, all based on what it learned from those photos and profiles. It takes all the complicated data work and makes it simple for the AI.
So it's like making AI plug and play with the stuff we already have.
Exactly. Now, there's this idea that MCP servers are like APIs for APIs, and it might sound kind of complicated at first. Why build an API on top of another one?
Yeah, it seems like extra steps, right?
But here's why it's so smart. It's about standardization. By making all those existing APIs work through MCP, you create this one interface for any language model to use. It doesn't matter if the backend APIs are different, the LLM sees them all the same way through MCP.
That makes things way more reliable and easier to connect. It's not about replacing everything. It's about giving AI one language to speak.
Exactly. And it's the developers who set up all these tools and resources on the server.
Right.
So the LLM doesn't have to figure out how to connect to each database or API. It just sees this list of what's available and it picks the right ones based on what you asked it to do.
That's really efficient.
Thank
Puts
you.
all the work on the server so the LLM can focus on, being smart.
Exactly. Okay, let's walk through an example to see how this all works in practice. Imagine you're using a chat app and you ask it, what's the weather like?
Right.
Or maybe, how many customers do I have?
So what happens first?
So the app, that's our host and client, it checks in with all the MCP servers it's connected to. It's basically saying, hey, what can you do?
Okay.
Then it takes your question, what's the weather like? And that list of tools and sends it all to a large language model.
Got it. So the LLM gets your question and this menu of things it can do.
Yeah, and the LLM looks at your question and the tool descriptions and figures out which one to use. For the weather, it'll pick the tool that gets weather data. For the customer account, it'll pick the one that connects to the customer database.
That's smart. So it's like matching the question to the right tool.
Yep. Then the host tells the right server to run that tool. So if it's the weather, it might say, Server X, run your get weather tool.
All right, so the server gets the command and takes over from there.
Exactly. And the server knows how to talk to the data sources. So it connects to a weather API or to the customer database, depending on what's needed.
And it sends the answer back to the host.
Exactly. It gives the host the weather data or the number of customers, and the host can then use the LLM again to make that answer look nice for you.
So instead of just raw data, you get a nice clear response like it's 72 and sunny, or you have 500 customers.
Exactly. It's like the LLM is the brain, the host is how you interact, and MCP is the nervous system connecting it all.
That's a great analogy. It really shows how MCP is the bridge between AI and the real world.
Now, let's say you're thinking, okay, this is cool, but how do I make an MCP server?
Yeah, how do you actually build this thing?
There are examples using Dano, which is for JavaScript and TypeScript, and LangChain, which uses Python. They both use SDKs. Those are like tool sets for developers. And they're SDKs for other languages too, like Java.
Oh, cool. So you've got options depending on what you're comfortable with.
Right. And when you add a resource, you give it a name, a URI, like a web address for it, and a function that explains how to get the data. So if it's a database query, that function has all the code to connect and get the results.
Okay, makes sense. So it's like giving instructions on how to access the data.
Exactly. Tools are similar. You give it a name and a function that explains what the tool does. Often there are specific inputs and outputs, and you can even use tools like Zod to make sure the data is formatted correctly.
So that prevents errors and keeps things running smoothly.
Right. And you can even take existing APIs and wrap them as tools. So if you already have a REST API, you don't have to start from scratch.
That's really handy. So you can build on what you already have.
Exactly. Now, the server can talk to the host in different ways. For local development, you can use standard I/O, which is like communicating through the command line.
Right.
But for cloud deployments, where the host and server might be on different machines, you might use server-sent events or HTTP requests. It depends on how it's all set up.
So different ways to communicate depending on the situation.
And the cool part is, apps like Claude Desktop or Cursor, they often handle running the server for you. You just tell them the command to start it, and they take care of the rest.
That's convenient. Makes it much easier to get started.
For sure. Okay, so we've built our server. Now, how do we actually use it?
Right. How do we connect it to our AI?
So you need a client, and those are usually built into AI apps like Claude Desktop. You go into the settings and add information about your server, usually just the command to run it.
So the client knows where to find the server.
And once it's connected, the client automatically checks with the server to see what resources and tools are available.
So the client is always up to date on what it can do.
Exactly. They gave the example of Claude Desktop, where you can attach a document as context. So let's say your server has a technical manual exposed as a resource.
Okay.
You can attach it to your chat in Claude and then ask Claude questions about that manual. It's like giving Claude extra knowledge.
That's powerful. So you can give it specific information to work with.
Now, for tools that actually change things, like writing data, there's usually a permission step. The AI might ask, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, that makes sense. You don't want to going rogue and changing things without your... Okay.
It's all about safety. And once you give permission, the host sends the command to the server, and the server does its thing.
Okay, so it's a controlled process. So to sum it up, the big thing about MCP is that it gives us this standardized way to connect AI to all sorts of data and tools.
Yeah, it's like a universal language for AI to talk to our digital world.
That's huge. It opens up so many possibilities. And there's a lot of excitement about it. People think this is a key part of that future where AI is writing most of the code.
Like that Anthropic CEO prediction, right? But of course, we have to be realistic too. There are always concerns with powerful new tech, like security and unintended consequences.
You're right. We need to make sure it's used responsibly with the right safeguards in place.
Exactly. But overall, it's a really exciting development. It's already leading to cool new tools and is a big step towards AI being more integrated with our world.
Absolutely. It's like the foundation for a whole new generation of AI applications.
Okay, let's wrap this up for our listeners. The main points to remember about MCP are that it's a new open standard for connecting AI agents to data and tools. It has three main parts: the host, the client, and the server.
And they talk to each other using the MCP protocol, which has these things called resources and tools.
Right. Resources provide information and tools perform actions. Remember that USB-C for AI analogy? That's what MCP is trying to be.
Yeah, that one's a good one. It really captures the idea of a universal connection for AI.
Now think about what this means for the future of software. How will you interact with AI when it has this kind of access? It's a big change in how we think about AI.
It really makes you think about how we work with AI, how much we trust it, and how we keep it safe.
If you're interested in seeing what's already being built with MCP, there's a great resource called the Awesome MCP repo. It's a good place to explore and see what's possible.
Yeah, it shows you the potential of this technology and all the different ways people are using it.
And on that note, here's a final thought for you. With AI getting smarter and more connected, what do you think the future holds for the relationship between humans and AI? It's a big question, but an important one to think about.
Definitely something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.